Hello, YouTube. I want to talk about a very sensitive topic. You can't talk about happiness without its contrary, especially if you're coming from a place such as mine where you've dealt with mental illness and bipolar. Its contrary is depression. The contrary to happiness is life. Happiness is hope. Happiness is that feeling that makes you want to wake up in the morning and have excitement for what's to come the next day. The opposite of happiness, of hope, is not sadness. It's not even depression. It's hopelessness. It's suicide. I want to talk about suicide. It's not that I want to talk about suicide, it's that I feel I have to talk about suicide. I can't make a channel that covers subjects about trying to become and sustain happiness, knowing full well that people who stumble on such a thing that don't know me personally are reaching for ways to get control over themselves, for some bright, shiny light at the end of a very dark tunnel. Now, you don't have to have a crisis in your life to become suicidal. It's more likely when there's a crisis in your life, the loss of a job, a home, a terminal illness diagnosis, or if you have a mental illness and you have that as part of your symptomology, it can come up. It can be a reaction to medication. But it can just be. It can just be. It's one of the highest death causes among teens and young adults, which is really tragic because suicide is not an answer. It's nothing to feel ashamed about. It doesn't mean that you are sick, you are morally bankrupt, mentally ill. It's nothing to shame a person about, because for one, it's a fact of the human condition. We're all moral. We're all mortal, which means at some point we will all die. So when a person is in such a place of abject and absolute darkness, the opposite of happiness, when they are hopeless, when they wake up day after day after day after day, and they feel hopeless about the feeling that they are feeling when it goes on too long. The situation goes on too long and surpasses their capacity to cope. We reach a place of hopelessness. Hopelessness means that there is no way out, that this is going to be the way that it's going to be indefinitely. There are a lot of dark and ugly corners of the human experience that can bring on suicidality. They can be external or they can be internal parts of the human condition. But the knowledge that eventually we all die can sometimes be a justification for getting it over with. When a person doesn't see that the future of their life until the day that they are destined to go has anything to offer to fix that pain, they might as well just expedite the process. When they see themselves as a burden to others, a burden to life, a failure, there are so many dark corners that lead a person to feel suicidal. The last thing that you need to do is to judge, shame, ridicule, accuse, belittle, place in a box anyone that you fear or feel may have considerations of suicide. It's often something that people won't openly discuss because there's such stigma around the topic of suicide. They don't want to worry their friends and family, even if they fully intend on doing it. For some reason, that makes sense because suicide does not make sense. Our ultimate drive as a species, as an animal, is to survive. So, illogical things like that occur when you are suicidal. Also, depending on if they're involved in a religion looks down on such a thing. They may be afraid to bring that up, as that would be a sin against God. They may keep it to themselves. They may assume that you're going to call them mentally ill, stupid, other things, and shame them when their cup is already so full that they're considering ending their life. The last thing you want to do is push a person. It's unfair to do these things to an individual anyway. But the last thing you want to do to an individual who's in such a critical place is to push negativity on them, judgmentalness on them, to call them crazy, or to make a light of it, to make jokes of it. It's a misnomer, it's a myth also that people don't bring up suicide before they actually do it. That if they talk about it, especially we're talking about young people, but if we talk about the elderly, they might talk about that, it'd be better if I wasn't here. I am a burden to all of you to care for me. I hate my life. There's nothing to look forward to. These type of comments, don't let them slip by. Youth are more likely to be open about it. Middle age, they might bring it up. And when a person brings up suicide, that means that it's on their mind. We can't speak about what we don't think about. And people that end their lives don't want to end their lives, they want to end their pain. They want to hit the stop button on a pain that feels like it will never stop. A situation that feels inescapable and unchangeable, and the idea of living through it for another week, another month, another year, another 40 years is psychologically and emotionally too much. They want their pain to stop, not their life to stop. And when people bring up suicide, it's a call for help. They don't know what help they need, or they wouldn't be at the point of considering suicide, but they're trying to draw your attention without really going there and working everybody up before they've made a concrete decision that this is what they're going to do. So don't mock, belittle, minimize discussions of, you'd be better off if I were dead. Anything suicidally related is important to pay attention to. Behaviors are important to pay attention to. When a person stops doing the things that they once did, that they once enjoyed, their activities become less and less. They may isolate from other people. They may cut off relationships entirely because they don't want to cause pain to that individual when they do what they're going to do. So a change in hygiene, a change in activities, a withdrawal socially are all things you want to pay attention to that a person may be getting depressed, changes in weight and sleep. You also want to pay attention to serious signs when a person may have reached the point where they are deciding to do this, which is they may suddenly get happy after a seemingly long depression, and people think that, oh, okay, they're fine, when really they're just resolved. They see that there is now a solution to their problems. They're committed to acting out what they had considered. So a sudden uptick in their happiness after being down and depressed for a very long time or suicidal is concerning, not something positive. It's something to watch. If they start getting their affairs in order, if they start giving away loved possessions that their great-grandmother's necklace, cherished things they would never give away, these are definite signs. Procuring things that could harm them, that one's obvious, but it's not so obvious when people give away cherished possessions or start setting their affairs in order, start visiting family and friends and saying deep, meaningful I love yous and all the things one might do if they knew they were passing. This may go right out the window and people think that they're well, and then they're taken aback and taken by surprise if somebody does commit suicide. With all this taken into consideration, suicide does not mean that you are bad, morally wrong, morally corrupt or bankrupt, or that there is something definitely wrong with you. Suicide does not mean you're mentally ill. It is part of the human condition to have these feelings. It's important to talk about these feelings. Excuse me. To bring them up. The longer that you sit and stew quietly on these feelings, the bigger they can get. The earlier this is caught and helped, the better. So speak with people. If people are speaking with you about feelings, accept them calmly, listen to them without judgment. Tell them you are here for them. Anything you can do for them, just let you know. Tell them, reassure them that you love them. Reassure them that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That it may not feel temporary, and you can appreciate what they're feeling. Maybe you can't even appreciate what they're feeling because you haven't been in so much pain that you are at that point, that you can't appreciate how much pain they're in. But we've all experienced a great deal of pain and suffering in our lives, and eventually, even if we didn't see a way out, that stuff became a memory. And there was joy again. There was good again. If they can just hold on. Call you anytime they need. You will be there. Reassure them that you love them, that there's nothing wrong with them for talking about it. Give them resources. If a person is seriously talking about suicide, they need to be helped. There is a national suicide prevention number, 1-800-273-8255. Also, there are usually local agencies. You can look this up in advance just in case you find yourself in this position, of crisis numbers that you can call. There's the local community health crisis line that you can call. There's always 911, and you can tell the person that on the other end of the line that this person needs a mental health welfare check, and they're talking about suicide, and get the person the help they need. They may not appreciate it at the time, but again, don't minimize. We're not talking about, I don't want to upset them, by getting them help. We're talking about them being here tomorrow or not. Suicide is a permanent solution for a temporary problem. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling the way that you do. But please don't act on it. It's never hopeless. It's never been hopeless. It'll never be hopeless. There's a reason you are here. There's something to hold on to. Find it. One 800-273-8255. There's also an online chat, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can chat online. There's so much more relevant things that I could say on this topic, but this video is already really long. This is something I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and I haven't found the right words. If you've been touched by suicide, the desire, the attempt in yourself, or the loss of life of others, you know how important this is. Take it seriously, and it's not their fault. Just get them help. You are loved. You are meant to be here. You have something great to offer. Love you guys. Bye, YouTube. No stigma. Just help. Love you guys.